Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Wednesday, October 18th. Winter's coming here. They're coming fast. So, I thought this morning we would cover a little bit about how people have a tendency to overspend. And then I wanted to touch on some of the tools that are out there above and beyond your normal tools, like your specialized tools, and a little bit of everything else. You know how I am. I kind of mix it up. So I had a friend of mine email me yesterday and told me that you guys, I'm terrible at pronunciations, and I'm sorry if you're watching this, if she's watching this, but Chico something, that they closed up and they didn't renew their lease on the building, and they kind of moved everything into storage for now. And so I went and I watched the video. And one of the takeaways I had of the video is she's a lot like any of the older shops, her and her husband. We are like hoarders. She's keeping all that old stock that is used, thinking that there's got to be some place someday that it can be used. It's got to have value. And she's got a lot of new old stock. And the cost to rent the building and do the repairs and stuff, if the business was doing very well, my thoughts were I would just hire a mechanic to replace her husband while he was out getting his hip surgery and getting after rehab. I know a lot of guys that have hip surgeries that are out going within a couple weeks. Good. I mean, they feel so great compared to what they did before. And my heart goes out to him and to her that hopefully they get this taken care of and he gets to feeling better. But I sat there and I mulled it over. And she was feeling really bad about her customers. And that's some of the reasons, that's one of the bigger reasons that a lot of these older shops, including mine, keep going, is because you don't want to disappoint your customers. I am very hopeful with her following on YouTube. And I would imagine she's getting sponsors and all that stuff, that they can afford not to have the shop. Because I'll tell you, there isn't a big profit margin in running a shop. Especially old school shop like they have, like we have. I mean, if you're in the new big floor planning and stuff like that, that's something a little different, but you're in debt up to your eyeballs. So all I can say is I hope her and her husband, I wish them the very best. Heart and prayer goes out to them with shutting their shop down. It's not easy, and hopefully things will work out. And I know she's going to continue with her channel, of showing people how to do stuff, which I think is good. It's going to be good for her too, because she does have such a following. So that goes into the next thing of living beyond your means. And why is it that so many people do live beyond their means? And living beyond your means means that if you have $10 income coming in and your budget is for $20, then you're actually going backwards $10 every time the budget comes around. We can't run our own checkbooks like the government runs our checkbooks up there. We have to balance it out. We were talking about, the Ford strike and stuff, and how these CEOs, and I told you, I don't feel sorry for the workers either. They're getting paid a fair wage. I would love to get paid that much. I don't make that much being the owner of my shop. And they want a 4-day work week with less hours for more money. That's what happens in life. You have the ones that have got it and the ones that don't got it. And the ones that got it know that if they could tempt the ones that don't got it just enough, that they'll be basically an indentured servant through loans and everything else to the ones that got it. I'm not saying the ones that got it can't lose it, because they can lose it. Car loans. Instead of hearing every day about how poor auto workers and poor Ford and poor this, poor that, why isn't anybody talking about a plain Jane Ford F-150 that come out of their Ford plant, and why it costs so much money, and why the average cost of a vehicle is more than your home? Yeah, in most areas, if you went out and bought a brand new vehicle, that payment on it, if you didn't have any down, didn't have any trade value, straight up, and now they go out 7+ years, so it makes it easier for you to pay for it. Why don't they reduce the cost of that vehicle to the average person? Because they don't want to lose what they have. Greed has a way of changing people, and usually for the worst. I can tell you that much right now. I always tell people, if you're not happy poor, you sure in hell ain't going to be happy rich. Well, it'll make me feel better. No, it won't. You may have a couple yeehaw moments, but you're going to still be you. So you need to get yourself in a place of where you're happy, whether you're rich or poor, and then let everything happen as it goes. But I see so many young people, and I see even older people that are going what I call backwards on a trade. Meaning, they've got a vehicle they want to trade in. They bought it used for $36,000. And now they want to trade it in. And possibly on a new one. And they owe $26,000 now on it. And the dealership comes out and does a quick appraisal on it and says, we'll give you $17,000. Well, the difference between what he appraised you at and what you owe gets tacked onto the loan of your next vehicle. And that's what I mean by you're going backwards on it. And if you're going backwards on the deal, you need to back out of the deal and keep that vehicle that you have going until it's closer to being paid off. My last Ford I bought, it's a 2021. Got all the bells and whistles in it. I wanted heated seats. I wanted free navigation. and I wanted just so my phone would pair up to it. Those are my 3 requests to my son. It was a salesperson for a Ford dealership. And he ended up coming back saying, look, Dad, the only one that's going to suit your wants and needs for everything is going to be the FX4. And said that the base price is $62 on it, $61.9. Said, you got to be freaking kidding me. A truck costs that kind of money? He goes, yeah, Dad. He said, you got to get with the times. You know, vehicles are expensive. Can I sleep in it? Does it have like extra options that I don't know about? And he goes, no. But he said, if you want, I can bring it home tonight with me and run out to your place and you can drive it. I said, I'm not doing anything until you give me an idea of what I'm going to pay for that vehicle, what you're going to give me for a trade on my vehicle, and go from there. And like he said, I can't do the straight up deal with you, Dad, because we're family. So he had his boss sit down with me and run numbers. And the numbers came out. I had a truck. It was a Chevrolet. And I had bought it brand new. And it was just going, it was 99,890 miles or something. So once it clicks to that 100,000 miles, it drops off. Now, mind you, we used it as a shop truck. We beat the crap out of that girl. But I knew if I drove it another year, it'd be paid for. Because I had a down payment on the front. And I put it over 5 years. And I knew I was already at the end of my 4th. So, and this was during COVID and all that. You know, pre-COVID, it was 21, so. But he said, you know, Mr. Edie, I'll give you, and it was like 35,000 for that truck. And I had owed, I think it was around 12. And he said that with the Ford rebates on that truck, because it was getting close to being called a carryover, because it was into 22 that I was looking at it. He said that with the rebates that are going on with that truck and the money that you have in equity in your other truck, plus, he said, your son has a D plan that he wants us to use for you, and that's going to save you an additional $10,000. What? He goes, yeah. Sign me up. I drove that truck out of that lot that afternoon because there was no way I could walk away and not do the deal. You know, I got a brand new truck, and I owed only half of what they were asking for. And I had a warranty bumper to bumper. Now, had he said, I'll give you $10,000 for your truck, you'd have gone backwards on your truck, and there weren't that many rebates, and your son doesn't have any D plans available, and this is, see ya, adios, I'd have been gone. But like so many, they say run it, see what happens. If it goes through, it goes through. If it don't, it don't. And then when it goes through, they're like, oh yeah, and then they realize how much their payment's going to be, and then they're trying to figure out where they're going to get money for gas to even put in the damn thing. So it's very easy to, you know, and Amos hit it, the nail on the head the other day too when it comes to financing with mortgages and stuff. Just because a bank is willing to give you $500,000 to buy a house, in his case it was 1.3, doesn't mean you need to go look at the richest house that's out there. That's super that you got that kind of credit. And But you got to live within your means, and you need to know through amortization and so forth how much that monthly payment is going to be, how long you're going to run it. Are you going to run it 15 or 10, 15, 20, 30 years out? What's the interest rate going to be on that? Because every percentage point the interest rate is up on a 30-year fixed is a lot of money on the end. You have to know all this stuff. And they aren't teaching that in school anymore. What are they teaching? They're not teaching math because our kids can't add anymore. They're not teaching history because they're out there protesting Israel's right to exist and siding with terrorists. The only thing they're being taught is gender identification? Are you freaking kidding me? If I were a parent with a child in school right now, I'd be at every board meeting they had. I'd probably be classified by the U.S. government as a terrorist because I would be very vocal about I want my kids to learn how to read, write, and do simple math. Okay? That's what you're there for as a teacher, to teach my child that. As far as everything else, let me, the parent, decide how I want to teach my child, and we'll go from there, and we won't have any problems. But if you're trying to be the parent to my child, no way, Jose. All right, so let me get off my little stool. That brings us to, I had a couple questions on specialty tools and what kind of lift we use in the shop. The lifts we simply use is in the front of a riding lawnmower. You drive the lawnmower front tires up on, and then it's a hydraulic foot that you bring it up to like this. We tried the style that had the screw jack. Do not buy those, and if you see one at an auction and you're looking at buying it, don't, because we've seen one fail that almost landed a heavy lawnmower right on clod. Don't do it. Piss poor design, and those threads will end up, the whole machine just dropped. Okay. Now you have lift gates. When we had the other shop, it was a 4x8 hydraulic lift table, and you could drive the lawnmower up on it, the riding lawnmower. You could put the push mower up on it, and then you just had a hand thing. And it was air operated, air over hydraulics, and it brought it right up. You could work eyeball to eyeball on it. And when we had the fire, we lost that in the fire. That was really, really handy. But for this shop here, we set up sawhorses, to be honest with you. Cheap plastic sawhorses. And we have a piece of plywood that we set on there. And then always make sure there's two of us. One on each side of the push mower. Set it up on eye level so that you're not bending over. Now, when Claude's working on riding lawnmowers and stuff, he's got a stool with wheels where he can get down and sit and work on stuff. That's how we do it here. Now, I know there's a lot of different ones out there that are available. I think Mojo puts out quite a few different options on theirs. It's what your budget is, and if you're alone in the shop where you don't have two people to help lift stuff onto tables, it would be more of an option if I were looking at it versus the way we have it right now here. And we just don't, in the shop area, we just don't have a lot of room to have more stuff in there. I think is probably the biggest thing. So get yourself a set of collapsible sawhorses. You can buy them by the plastic, usually a set. Take a 3x5 sheet of plywood, put it on your sawhorses. Set your push mowers up where you can work on them, your weed eaters up where you can work on them, chainsaws up where you can work on them. And when you need the space, you can just take and disassemble the sawhorses, slide them up against the wall, put the plywood next to the wall, and you got your space back. That's how we do it. And I'm going on 61 and Claude's 71. So if we can do it, anybody can do it, because we're weaklings. All right, so that also brings up specialty tools. Now, you can go crazy. I think I've said this before. My son loves Snap-on. And Claude, when he was working for car dealerships as a mechanic, that's what he had, was Snap-on. And he said, if you're going to do it for a living, where you're making money, you got to invest in the right tools. And I think that's true to a case, to a certain point. Now, I think Jason is the one that asked, what kind of specialty tools do we have here? And other than voltmeter, ammeter, we don't have a bunch of specialty tools. We used to have, it was one unit handheld that was for all the Massimo, Coleman's, all them, where you could plug them in and see what's going on with them. And the two Massimos that we were having problems with, and that's why I bought this code reader. It was under $600, 5 something. And was because their tech was telling us, well, you need to have the code reader to tell you the code. And I said, no. I said that it should be flashing on the dash. If you read the owner's manual, it says it will flash codes. And they said, no, you need the code reader. So I bought the code reader, and we had it here. And we put it on both of those machines, and it showed no codes being thrown. But yet we couldn't get them to run right. So we ended up, I sold that. It sat here gathering dust. Now, Sten's has got one that's under $600 that has, just a small black box. And you have the adapter to do Briggs & Stratton and Kohler. Now, Briggs & Stratton and Kohler and them, they all make their own tools. But you can go crazy investing in a lot of these tools. And, everything from knowing how many RPMs the engine's running at. You can do a handheld close to the spark plug. You can hook onto the spark plug and have a... We do everything by ear. We still do when it comes to that. We can tell, I can tell, if a chainsaw is running smooth or not, if it's not coming up to where it needs to be, and adjust the jets, the high-low range jets. If you're going to get into a lot of the newer stuff, then I would personally lean more towards getting the scan tools and stuff out there that are available. But for just your everyday stuff, we don't use them. So far, we haven't had to use them. So if we aren't going to use them and they're just going to gather dust hanging on the wall, I'm not going to buy them. Not telling you guys not to buy them, but we don't buy them. Kohler has their own tool, I think is around $200. Briggs has got their own tool, push button, and I think that's around $100 and some. Sten's has got one that does both of them with the tool for under $6. You can go crazy. Snap-on has got it, and you can buy all the different attachments. Each one is cost you a certain amount to add to your arsenal. But in the end, it's you got to make money in the shop. And if you're spending a lot of money on stuff that you're not using, then... So on that note, I'll wrap this thing up a little bit. We need to teach our kids better when it comes to understanding history, arithmetic, how to read, how to spell, and less worried about that they might identify as a goat. I don't know. And we need to live within our means, even though our government is teaching us every day that, we just push it down the road, kick the can down the road. Well, eventually that can's going to catch up with you. And again, for, Chickanic and her husband, we wish them the best. And I'm more inclined to think that she is another casualty. They are another casualty of what's taking place with the older shops. And that is, they're not making enough money for the time they're putting in to where it's profitable. That if I were to walk into their business and look, I would be willing to bet that both he and she are putting in long hours. They don't see much time for vacation to get away with each other. They work side by side all day long. And even at their age, they don't have a big nest egg built up. Because each year, it gets less and less for people that are going to come have you work on their stuff. Because each year they cheapen stuff that's out there, and people just aren't willing to put that kind of money into garbage, into crap. On that note, you guys have a great Wednesday. We'll see you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Anybody else have any comments or suggestions on videos? I can go into more detail. I can do the research for you on the scan tools, but if you just do a simple Google search on, small engine scan tools or stens, like I say, it's an investment, and it may be right up your alley that's exactly what you need. That would be great. If you're going to use it on a regular basis, then okay. But if we don't use it on a regular basis in the shop, I'm not buying it. On that note, you guys have a great day.